What is going on, Overemployed Army? In this video, we're going to talk about how overemployment has changed to the end of 2024 and coming into 2025, how it's going to continue changing. But before we get into that, I just want to talk about, we did take a really long break. I think it's been maybe almost a year and a half or more now. And let me quickly explain why we took that break. To be completely honest, overemployment didn't really have too much shifts in the last couple of years. Things didn't change too much. But going into 2025, there's going to be a lot of new differences. And a lot of you have probably noticed it might have been a lot different by 2024 and a lot harder to get positions. So in this video, we're just going to talk about how to approach overemployment for 2025 and how to improve your chances of getting that second or third or fourth job. And also, if you do want to become overemployed even quicker, you can still check out the Overemployed Masterclass and the coaching in the description box below. You can also book a free call to get some personal advice just for you.
All right, guys. So let's go a bit into the introduction to overemployment. And yeah, so as you guys know what overemployment is, if you're new to our channel, the definition of overemployment is basically holding multiple jobs simultaneously, transitioning from a risky side hustle to a strategic career choice. So yeah, Ben, I just wanted to ask you, how has the concept of overemployment changed from its early days to 2025?
Yeah, so the fundamentals are exactly the same, right? It's having multiple remote jobs that you're working during your typical 9 to 5 hours, and you're not killing yourself working 80 to 100 hours a week, but you're still getting those double, triple, quadruple paychecks. However, a lot of things have changed because you guys probably know a lot of companies are enforcing return to office mandates. Also, there's a lot more competition for the overall job market in general. And AI, as a third factor, is making big ripples in the job markets because it's automating a lot of jobs. And a lot of people are using AI and all of these softwares to apply massively to jobs. So it's changing the way you have to approach getting that second or third job.
All right. Yeah, so could you go a bit into the evolution of overemployment?
100%. So if you're new to this channel, this is going to be great for you. If you're not new, maybe skip along a little bit. But basically, overemployment started off really a few years ago only, in terms of being mainstream. And it was something that was very taboo, right? So it was the idea of people realizing, especially during COVID, when every job started going remote, people started realizing that a lot of jobs don't actually you don't really need to be there attentively at your position for 8 hours a day like you would think, right? So there's a lot of downtime, and this doesn't mean you're not performing well at your job. It just means that sometimes you just have a lot of extra time on your hands. So what that meant is a lot of people realized they can get that second job, and from there they could stack jobs and really fill their entire week while still performing well and getting those double paychecks. And obviously, people were thinking of this as maybe being immoral or maybe illegal even. But as years have passed, people realized that the risks of overemployment aren't really that high. And in the worst case, you lose a job and you can just get another one. But obviously, as years go on, people became way more comfortable doing this, and it's pretty stable now and comfortable for people to approach this.
And even in like 2024, you both know there's been so many layoffs happening. So it makes people more comfortable now knowing that, hey, maybe I should be, let's say, quote unquote, immoral, work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, 4 jobs. Because you kind of realize that the employers and companies don't really care about you. And you should always put yourself first and make sure you're always financially secure as well.
100%. A lot of people realize in the last couple of years that employees are just a number to a lot of corporations. And we've never said on this channel that you should try to bleed them dry and take advantage by not doing any work. We don't believe in that. We do believe you should still put your best foot forward. But at the end of the day, everyone understands that these companies at the end of the day want to take advantage of you. And if you can take advantage of it as well, it's a mutually beneficial contract.
Yes, sir. All right, I have a quick question for you actually, Ben. So what do you think drives individuals to take on multiple full-time jobs simultaneously? What's the leading factor for that?
Yep. So like you mentioned, the big one is obviously the main one, people want more money, right? So if you can double your paychecks, triple your paychecks while not working crazy expensive hours, that's the dream goal. But also, like you mentioned, the layoffs open a lot of people's eyes. So when people see companies laying off whole entire departments and teams just in the blink of an eye without any notice, and sometimes you don't even get severance, people want that job security, right? They don't want to be unable to provide for their family or pay their bills. So that's obviously a big one. Um, those are really the two main ones. And I think they're common sense, but a lot of people, they just need to drill into them so they can actually remember that.
And let's say even if you're going grocery shopping or like anywhere else right now, you can tell that 100K salary or anything along those lines isn't really sustainable to support us in this economy. So that's why a lot of people probably do overemployment now, just to basically keep up with inflation as well, or if they're not getting the raises that they want from their job. So that's another good
Exactly.
point, I think. Yeah,
Exactly. 10, 20 years ago, people would think someone that's overemployed is doing this because they're very greedy or they're very ambitious. But at this point, being overemployed, you're kind of barely getting to upper middle class, right? There's inflation has been so high that it kind of requires you to become overemployed just to be comfortable.
exactly. So a bit about the motivations behind overemployment. So before we get into that, what do you think are a few of the main challenges faced by overemployment individuals today? Because I know a lot of our viewers are probably, if you're new, you're probably still a bit nervous to get that second job, right? Especially in this job market where it's pretty hard to land a job as it is. It's gonna change in 2025 for sure, so don't fret about that. But what do you think are the main challenges faced today by overemployed individuals?
Yeah, so in 2025, the issues are a lot of companies mandating return to office. So what that means is there's going to be fewer remote jobs. Now, there's still a lot of remote jobs, but you have to be a lot more selective about how you're approaching these applications. So obviously, if you're applying to jobs which you have no relevance for, you have to avoid doing that. It's not the same as it was in 2020, 2021, where you can just spam apply and you'll get interviews right away. You have to be a lot more aware of what your strengths are. So when you do apply to jobs, people will actually notice your resume. You stick out more because you could apply to 1,000 jobs and maybe get 5 interviews. But if you look at maybe, let's say you're an engineer that specializes on building rocket ships, as a stupid example, right? If you only apply to those companies, you're going to get way more interviews compared to applying to front end development positions. So you have to really focus on that. And also, I'd recommend being a lot more creative when you're applying your jobs. So reaching out to recruiters or managers on LinkedIn, building out actually valuable portfolios, which aren't just like chat GPT apps created in one day, right? Something that someone will see and genuinely find value in. And then obviously, if you are overemployed, just like you see on the screen here, it's going to be the typical overemployed fundamentals, managing your time for all your jobs, managing meetings, meeting conflicts, avoiding burnout, because burnout's a huge thing where if you keep pushing, eventually you're going to drop 1 or 2 jobs. And then that's not going to be beneficial for you because you just wasted all that time getting those jobs, right? So you want to be able to make it sustainable because if you can only do it for a couple months, it's not really worth it. And then obviously managing all of those overlapping project deadlines and tasks, which will come up at your jobs. You'll have to be very, very on top of that. So you can organize what you need to prioritize at which job so that, again, it can be sustainable for the long term.
Just to jump in there, if you guys want to become overemployed and you guys want a bit of guidance, please book a call with us down below, right? 15-minute call. We're going to help you become overemployed. This is completely free. The initial call is completely free. We're going to basically put down a whole table for what you guys have to do from start to finish to become overemployed. And we're basically guaranteeing you an overemployed position. So book a call with us today. Don't hesitate. Do it now. And yeah, become overemployed like us. But yeah, jump to the next question here. So let's say, how many hours on average are you working, being overemployed? How many jobs do you have currently right now, and how many hours are you putting in a week?
Yeah, so for me personally, I have 2 positions still. And for most people, I would recommend to still try to always keep your hours as if you're working one job. If you do have to, some days or some weeks go over that typical 8-hour work day or 40-hour work week, go for it, right? Let's say you work 50 or even 60 hours one week, but if it means you'll keep both positions and then you'll be able to return to the comfortable hours again, it's worth it, right? But ideally, you're going to spend the same amount of time that you'd spend on one job, and sometimes you'd be surprised you might be able to spend even a lot less. Some people have positions where they only work 1 or 2 hours a day in one job. So maybe with 2 jobs, you'll only be working 4 hours a day. So don't worry and don't stress about thinking, oh, if I'm overemployed, I'm going to lose all of my time. That's not the case. And let's say even if it was in the worst case, you can always drop that job, right? You can always find another job. And there's really no risk here. At the end of the day, you might make more money, and in the worst case, you just lose that job and you're back to where you were anyway. So nothing changes.
Also, don't put too much on your plate, right? If you have, let's say, 2 jobs already, don't add a third job because you're not going to manage that at all. And if your main job takes, let's say, 8 hours to nine, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, you can't add a second job to that one. You got to find a job that you're putting less than 8 hours in, right? That you know that if you had a second job in here, you won't be working 14, 16 hours a day, that you'll still be working 8 or less hours. So just keep that in mind.
Exactly. Because if you can't enjoy your life, there's no point of making the extra money.
All right. So let's go on to the technological tools for overemployment here. So yeah, we have a few listed here. So Ben, could you just go into a bit of all these and how they're used into your day-to-day life?
100%. So I think the basic ones most people know about, the typical communication tools and scheduling apps, things like for calendars, managing all your tasks, your work. Those are great. And I think most people
Yeah.
are aware of those. But the ones I really want to mention here are the AI assistants you can set up. So whether that's you just using ChatGPT or using, the one of the hundreds available AI tools right now, specific to any industry that you might be working in, that's going to be invaluable. Those are some of the most important game changers, I think, in 2025. And that's what will help you stack more and more jobs going into 2025. There's so many AI tools out there. And let's say you're a software engineer, you can use ChatGPT or Copilot to code. And even if you just work a basic administrative HR job or something, right? There are going to be so many AI tools that you can take advantage of. And they might not even be that hard to learn. It might take you a couple hours, you'll pick it up. It's not as scary as it used to be, 5 years ago, where you had to automate tasks with something like Python or any other scripting language. It's much more accessible to the normal person.
Exactly. And this also use these AI assistants to actually save time too. So don't like do manual tasks and take like 8 hours doing that. Make use of every single tool you can to save you time. And yeah, also I just thought of a question right now. So if you're hybrid by any chance, and let's say you're working 4 days at home and you're 1 day in person, Ben, do you recommend this person does overemployment, or are there some conditions for that?
So it's definitely possible if you can find a second position which has almost zero meetings. But overall, I wouldn't recommend this, and it will just make things a lot more stressful and challenging. If you have meeting conflicts or you have to take even your second work laptop to your first job, it's just going to be a lot more stressful and hairy. So if it's possible, I would avoid doing that in a hybrid job. But if you have to and you're kind of at your wits end, you think it's doable, then go for it. You can always try it, and if it doesn't work out, you can always drop the one job.
I agree. All right, so now let's talk about a bit about how employers are responding to the trend of overemployment. So we know that employers are kind of cracking down with like tighter monitoring, and to limit people being overemployed, they're mandating the hybrid model or just return to office. We know the government, United States, are also doing that as well. So this is not just them; it's just big companies doing this. So, what are your thoughts on these strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats of how employers are responding to overemployment?
Yeah, so it's not that employers are exactly cracking down directly on overemployment, but they are indirectly with all the return to office mandates. And the thing with that is it's gonna mean that if you are a junior, it might be a little bit harder for you to become overemployed, but that also means there's gonna be less competition. So it might be a bit harder, but a lot of people are gonna quit a lot quicker than you, unless you also quit, right? So I'd recommend you keep going, keep looking for jobs that match your niche, your skill set, and it'll end up being a non-issue for you, right? You'll be able to find those unique jobs that are remote, and you'll be able to overcome these return to office mandates. In terms of overemployment overall, it's been around now in the mainstream, I'd say, for close to 5, 6, 7 years now, and there still hasn't been any massive, scandal or crackdown on it. It's kind of calmed down. So you don't need to stress about it too much. You can still do it. It's doable. It's more so just the overall market conditions are making it a little harder. But if you keep persevering, you can make it and you can get that second job.
Exactly. So, yeah, I just want to jump into our last question here. So, this is probably the question that people are here for: is what is the view for overemployment in 2025? Is it declining? Is it growing? What do you think?
I think if you use your brain and you approach with a strong intention of, actually wanting to get that second job, not just half-assing the effort to get that job, I think it's a very strong positive outlook on overemployment, but you do have to be a lot more intentional. You have to adapt with all these new AI tools. You have to take advantage of them because if you don't, other people are. and they're going to come out on top of you. And then also, like I mentioned in the earlier part of this video, is if you are trying to get a job, it's not as easy as just applying to 1,000 jobs, and getting interviews. You have to be a lot more intentional with outreach, cold outreach or warm outreach to employers, maybe making LinkedIn posts, things like that, getting people noticed, interacting with community members of these companies. I mean, just overall being more creative, because sometimes the shotgun approach doesn't work as well as the sniper approach. You might be able to find 5 companies that you think would be a great fit in, and just, messaging those people in that company, you might notice is a lot more effective than sending out 1,000 applications.
Another thing you have to keep in mind is that most people want to work remotely, especially since COVID, when overemployment and just remote work in general has shot up. So if most of these companies are making you go back into office, most people might be like quitting these jobs because they want to stay remote. That's like the main goal for most of these workers here, that they want to be remote and always want to be remote. So just seeing it through that lens, I think the future outlook of overemployment is very positive, especially in 2025 and going onwards. And yeah, so you also have to keep in mind that this is pretty much never going to go away. And the thing about overemployment, it's always changing, right? It's not like one shoe fits all. It's always going to be changing, and you got to get craftier as time goes on how to become overemployed and how to stay overemployed. And the thing about our channel is that we make sure that you're always up to date on this, where we make sure that you're always going to be overemployed and you always practice the best skills to stay overemployed so you don't make any stupid mistakes, basically. So again, if you guys want to check out our coaching class below, sign up today and we'll get on a one-on-one call with you to make sure you're overemployed. And yeah, so any last thoughts, Ben?
No, just wanted to say, like the video if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel, and it is great to be back. And we are going to be a lot more intentional with these videos and making videos what we think are the most notable things about overemployment, and then specifically for 2025 as well.
Yeah, and stay tuned for more videos because overemployment is changing every year. So we're going to provide you the most up-to-date stuff on overemployed. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. See ya.